Hi everyone, and welcome to Bob's Wood Stuff. Today we're going to do the first week of my new series, which is called Joinery Class. This week we're making a three-way lap joint. These joints are really good for trivets to put hot foods on, or for the tops of coat racks. I've also used one for the top of my maypole. If there's another joint that you'd like to see, let me know in the comments. This works similarly to a half-lap joint, but because there's three that need to overlap, each piece only has 1/3 of the material present, and 2/3 is removed. The first thing I need to do is make this lap joint. And then once I have this X, I can remove that middle section for the third piece. I'll take these two pieces and find the centered lengthwise. Now what I need to do is overlap them at a 120-degree angle, like these ones. So now I'll set my protractor to 120 degrees, and I'll mark a line at that angle. This gives me one edge for my piece, and I can place it right against that. So what I'll do is hold this piece down, and I'll scribe a line on both sides of it using the marking knife. I'm having a problem with this shifting a lot, so I'm going to clamp it down to my bench. Now that I've marked the 120-degree diagonals, I need to mark 2/3 of this using my marking gauge. My piece is 3/4 of an inch thick, so I'm going to set my marking gauge at 1/4 of an inch. I'll do that by just placing a notch and then putting the blade of my marking gauge inside that notch while it's loose and butting the fence up against the workpiece. I need to remove 2/3 of the actual piece. So from the bottom, I will make my mark, and then from the bottom, from the other side, I will also make a mark. Now that I made those two marks, I'll use a square to connect those lines to the top. Now I need to saw on those lines and remove this middle chunk of the piece of wood. Before sawing anything, I need to create a knife wall on these shoulders here, and I'll do that with my chisel. With the flat side of the chisel against my mark so that the bevel is going into my waist side, I'll use the chisel to mark a straight up and down line and then remove a small chunk by pushing into it. This is called a knife wall, and that ensures that my shoulder is exactly where I marked it and it doesn't get messed up while I'm sawing. Creating this knife wall also cuts the fibers so that when you're sawing it, they don't tear out where you don't want them to. I'll also create a knife wall on the other two sides that I need to cut. Now I need to saw this using my Japanese saw. I'll just place the saw blade directly into that knife wall that I've made, being careful to maintain that shoulder. Even though these saws cut on the pull stroke, I like to push it forward first to create a really shallow kerf before getting that resistance from the teeth. I'm only sawing on the two sides I can see, which are the top and the side closest to me. And then I'll flip it over and saw from the other two sides. And then the same thing on this one. I'll saw the top and the side closest to me. Now flip it around and do the same cut from the other side. If I've done this correctly, there should be a peak in the middle because I've gone in diagonally from each side, so now I'll do a straight cut to get down to my line. Make sure to look from the other side so you're not going too low. Now that I've cut these kerfs, I can chisel out most of the material while not going all the way to my line because I'll use a different tool for that. I'll chisel out this waist, taking off about 1/8 of an inch at a time. Notice that I'm not chiseling all the way through. I'll come in from the other side to remove it because I don't want the grain blowing out. Now I'll flip it around and come in from the other side. Now that it's really close to the final measurement, I'm going to use this router plane to get a smooth, level surface. Now that this one is cut exactly how I need it, I'll just place it on top of the other piece. So this fits really well. It's very snug. Ideally, it's going to be really snug or even a little bit too tight. If it's too tight, you can do a couple passes on the hand plane on the sides of this until it fits really snug. If it's too loose, you might want to recut it because you really don't want it loose. I'll place it right here, and then I'll use my marking knife to trace the intersection. So now I need to remove this part going down by 1/3, because this one will be this piece where the middle third is still present. So I'll use my marking gauge and measure down 1/3 on both sides. Then I'll take my square, wrap those lines down. Take your time on this part, because if your markings are not accurate, your joint won't fit well. Okay. Now I'll cut it down the same way as the previous one, but I'll only go 1/3 instead of 2/3 down. And I'll chisel out some of the waste. Now I can use the router plane again, and I'll have to reset it to this depth. Now I'll test the fit of it to see if I need to adjust anything. That's pretty much a perfect fit, so I think I can move on to the next step, which is routing out an area for this third one to go. I'll start by marking the middle of this piece, which will help me align it. I'll use my centering jig to mark a line down the center of this last piece. Now I'll place the X top side down on this third piece, lining up the middle of the X with the center line. Now that I've marked these lines, I know that I need to remove 1/3 of this out of both pieces. So I'll mark that using my marking gauge. And I'll wrap these lines around using the square. Now that the lines are drawn, I'll make a knife wall with my chisel. After using the router plane, this third piece should rest into the groove. I'm going to make 4 cuts on this because I need to come in from both sides and 4 different angles. Sometimes the fibers get stuck and I'll need to do a little bit of cleanup with the chisel. Now that that last piece is cut, I'll see if it fits into the other 2 pieces. It's not quite there yet. I'm going to clean it up a little bit with a chisel to try to get that fit. All right, I'll try to fit it again. Cool. So that is the 3-way lap joint. It's a pretty cool joint. It's mostly decorative, but if you need this shape, it's really the way to go. And just by doing it, you'll get a lot better at joinery because of the practice. If there's a joint you'd like to see, please write it in the comments, and make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.